I'm going to call Eugenie Sage.
Thank you, Mr Chair. Mr Chair, I'm tired of the Minister repeating the comments about commissioners who were appointed in relation to district health boards. They were in place for a much shorter time than these appointed members will be on the Regional Council. And also the Minister, again, is being rather mischievous in failing to recognise that district health boards derive all of their income from national taxes. They are Crown agents for the purpose of the Crown Entities Act that sets out and prescribes their objectives and functions in quite limited terms. Because they are funded totally by taxes, then it's quite different where the Minister appoints representatives there to carry out the Crown's objectives. Regional councils are different. They are funded largely by rates and through some funding from the National Land Transport Fund in terms of public transport. But that's what the fundamental objection to this is. There is no comparison with district health boards. And I think that the fact that the Minister keeps coming back to previous governments having appointed commissioners to replace for a short period of time district health boards shows the emptiness of the government's justification for this legislation. It claims, and it's claimed in the discussion document that MFE put out, that it's essential that we have appointed rather than elected members because that seems to be the only way the government believes that you can encourage strong organisational performance and effective decision-making. What does the Minister and what does the government think is happening in regional councils around the country, in district and city councils around the country, in this parliament, where the electorate is trusted to elect competent people to undertake quite complex governance functions, to make decisions with big budgets, with complex issues. And yet, somehow in Canterbury, just because it is about water, the government does not trust the people of Canterbury to elect competent councillors to be able to do that. And that is again because the government has a very extractive agenda. It wants to promote more irrigation, more agricultural intensification. That is the real justification for this bill and for the ministers having such massive powers to appoint 6 members of the council. And those powers in Part 2, under Clause 15, the members may also be removed at the discretion of the responsible ministers, the Minister for the Environment and the Minister of Local Government. And those powers are at their complete discretion. There are no constraints on ministers having appointed those 6 members as to when they would remove them. That means, Mr Chair, that if the appointed members don't meet with the satisfaction of ministers, they can just be removed. The ministers don't even have to give any reasons. So this is highly paternalistic, it's highly undemocratic, the powers that we are giving to ministers in this bill to remove the ability of Cantabrians to elect competent members of their council. And the comments that Megan Woods made about the representation. One of the recommendations in the Creech report was that the representation of the City of Christchurch should be reviewed. That is not happening, and the City of Christchurch and Christchurch citizens will be very much underrepresented in this new model. And that's why opposition members have accused the government of gerrymandering with this bill, because it gives much better representation in terms of elected councillor to number of citizens for those in the rural constituencies than to those in Christchurch. And if we look across the country, under this mixed model with the appointed members, we will have 1 councillor per 90,000 people in Christchurch, and yet an average of 1 councillor per 82,000 people across Canterbury. In the Waikato, there is 1 elected councillor for every 31,000 people. In the Bay of Plenty, one councillor for every 21,000 people. And in Wellington, 1 councillor for every 38,000 odd people. That is a much more effective and accessible method of local representation than this bill, which is only having 1 councillor for every 90,475 people in Christchurch. This is undemocratic, Minister. The justifications that the government has given show that it doesn't really trust democracy at all, and potentially people in Christchurch may not turn out to vote, because why would you vote for councillors around a table when almost half of the other people at the table can have a hotline to the minister, when they can be potentially overruled by the government appointees? So the power is staying in Wellington. It is not being given back to elected members in Canterbury. The other issue, Mr Chair, is just this whole excuses that the minister keeps giving by saying that only 2 of, it's actually 10 zone committees in Canterbury have developed sub-catchment plans to be part of the regional land and water plan. It is interesting, the double standard. ECAN, for much of its initial life, struggled with the issue of clean air in Canterbury, in Christchurch. That was a major issue for the health of Christchurch people, resulting in additional deaths each year. The elected council focused on air, then it moved to water. The minister has been highly critical of elected councillors for their failure to develop an operative plan, though there was a proposed one. Yet now the minister is giving those same reasons, the need for more time, as an excuse to continue the appointment of commissioners, as he was so critical of elected councillors. So there is no consistency there. If only 2 of the 10 sub-catchment plans have been completed by commissioners, how can the government then say they have done a good job? If the commissioners were appointed to improve water management, if the commissioners were appointed to expedite the planning process, well, they've obviously failed there if only 2 of these sub-catchment plans have actually been done.
I'm going to call the